Well, it's Saturday, and you all know what that means. As you probably know, in Japan, Stardom continues with more of New Year's Stars, but this time they made a pit stop in Osaka at the Edion Arena Osaka number 2. Now, keep in mind, some matches, of course, are preliminaries for title matches, special matches, however you want to see it. So it's going to really be a fun match. But don't forget, this Osaka event is only a 2-day event. So we're going to focus on day one. And then after that, we will end our reviews with, of course, with AEW Collision Maximum Carnage. So, of course, it lives up to its name. We're going to be seeing some very interesting matches. We're going to see a bit of a number one contendership for the AEW National Champion. Who's going to walk out to face, of course, Ricochet? Will it be Jungle Jack Perry or Anthony Bowens? However, our main event features the AEW World Trios Championship on the line. The Ops will defend the titles against the combined forces of Hangman Adam Page and Jet Speed. The real question is, will they pull it off? Will Hangman Page keep his word? Will he take everything away from Samoa Joe? Well, we'll just have to find out. And of course, as always, we'll wrap up our episode as usual with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information is unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Nike Sayaka watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please click on the like button or nice comments in the description down below. Now, enough of the jibber jabbers. Let's get started. So, let's begin with day one of Stardom's New Year's Stars in Osaka. Okay, Stardom New Year's Stars 2026. This happened on of course, on the 17th of January at the Edion Arena Osaka number 2. Now, this is, of course, day one of this particular day in Osaka. Now, we opened up with Maki Ito teaming up with EXV members Rian and Micah, which is interesting because, of course, you got to remember, Maki Ito did not have this type of thing in Tokyo Pro Wrestling. It's a different environment, different concept that she was used to, but now it's going to be a little interesting. But we ask ourselves how she would do, of course, in this because they're facing against a team that are already, of course, in good cohesion, and we're talking about Neo Genesis. Azumi, May Sita, and of course Starlight Kid. Now, of course, you would think that things would start out normally because that's how it is, but unfortunately, Maki Ito messed up in some capacity, but it went were upwards. But of course, but it was in fact Rianne who ended up taking the fall when Starlight Kid applied the Black Tiger leg killer onto her, and just like that, it was completely over. So Rianne had no choice to tap, and of course, right after the match, in the post match, Michael was not too happy that they lost the match. Blame game, of course, like as always. But of course, Makito tried to leave with EXV, but they're like, "Sorry, we're not having it. You're not part of the group." So that's how it ended things there. Now, our next match, you can call this one, of course, a part of the preliminary match. We have uh, Kikyo Furuzawa teaming up with Olympia to take on Ana Kanaye and Azuki. Now, keep in mind the reason they call this a preliminary match due to the fact that Azuki has nominated Olympia as her opponent for the CML Japan Women's Championship, which obviously plays pretty well. So, the obvious question we probably ask ourselves in this match, who's going to build up the momentum? Now, of course, we can rely on Azuki's experience and toughness. But when you see the powerhouse of Olympia, well, that's a different story right there. Because she was the one who picked up the win when she applied a sit down power bomb onto Kanaya. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Now, our next match, we have God's Eye, consistent of Rana Yagami, um, Tomoka Inaba and Lady C taking on the Cosmic Angels, Sayaka Kurara, Yuna Mizumori, and Natsupoi. So we know that there's some certain things in this match. I do know that Lady C is amongst those who, in fact, wants to have a shot at the high speed belt. But however, there are certain things that we might have overlooked. If you guys notice, look, there's like a bit of a rivalry because they're from the same batch and same class. We're talking about Rana Yagami and Saya Kurara because it was Yagami who picked up the win by pinfall on Kurara. Now, rule of thumb, she is around the same type of 3-year experience as her. So she, as you know, Kurara is one half of the New Blood Tag Team Champions with Aya Sakura. So most likely we can see Yagami challenge for these belts. But the real question is, will she do it? She does have a win over her, so that can put Pete in her pocket. So we'll see where that leads us from there. Now, our next match, we have the other members of EXV, more specifically Waka Tsukiyama and Zena taking on Mi Vida Loca, consistent of Akira Kurigani and Azuki. Now, remember, Bozilla is out due to an injury. It's still undetermined when she'll be back, so hopefully she'll be back well and rested. But the match was okay from my point of view, but it was in fact Xena that picked up the win by applying Thunderstruck onto, of course, onto Kurigani, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Now our next match, we have Stars, consistent of Yuri Him, Momokogo, Saya Ida, and B Priestley taking on God's Eye, consistent of Hina, Saki Kashima, Amisori, and Shuri. So nothing too significant about this whole match. I know that Kashima and B Priestley know each other very well. If you guys remember, they were part of Oedo Tai back in the day. But now that that unit is dissolved, but the real question is how this ends. Well, it was in fact Amisuri that picked up the win when she applied, of course, the like Thunderbolt onto who was it? Onto Momokogo, and just like that, 1, 2, 3. That's all she wrote, folks. Our next match, which is a semi-main event, is a four-way match, a very interesting one. We have Aya Sakura of the Cosmic Angels versus Hanako of EXV versus Miya Masaki of Neo Genesis, and then finally Sayori Anu of course, Cosmic Angels, which is probably, you guys will say, wait a minute, there's a bit of an advantage here because you got two people who are part of the same unit, which is true. I mean, it could play out that well, but Saudi Ano has no problems facing her own teammates. I mean, it builds up character for how she sees it. But of course, we got to look at Aya Sakura. We know she's capable. She's an amazing striker. She can pull up a little bit of the submission move. But you look at Hanako. She relies on her strength and powerness. But she does have a submission side, in case anybody asks. Miyu Misaki, well, she is very good. very um, ready to go to take the next step. And then you got the much experienced person, Sayuri Anu. But in the end, it was Anu who picked up the win by applying the pottering onto Hamasaki, and just like that, it was over. But there's a post match. For those who did later, Sayuri Anu was telling herself and Miyu Misaki they're from Shiga, and of course, they were calling for people from Shiga, people from Kobe, which is where Sakura's from, and then Hanako from Kyoto. However, as soon as they were doing that whole thing, they had a surprise visit from somebody. Now, not from Stardom. Her name is Ranmaru. She has this unique style, being a bit of a comedic wrestler. So, I'm trying to remember exactly what she tried. Let me see if I can find it. Um, I have it on my phone somewhere because I know I took a screenshot of it. Yeah, this is what she says. If we were talking Ramaru, it's going to be Ranmaru Festa. I'm announcing it right here, March 29th, Ranmaru Festa Volume 44, Exbirth on February 20th, Akira Chan Arena, right? Next day here in Osaka and Prefecture. So, what do you say? How about you all do a comical match? So she's inviting all four of them who participate in the match. I mean, this is the first time they probably will do something completely different, but that's how it is. So I have to say it's a pretty good one. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Now, our main event is a showdown within the Hate faction, of course. But this is part of the primary match, and I'll explain that a little bit. We have one side Azusa Inaba, Fukigen Def, and Rina taking on Ruaka, Natsuko Tora, and Konami. Now, this is a preliminary match for obvious reasons. If you guys remember, it was Rina who, in fact, issued the challenge for the Wonder of Stardom Championship. We know that she's making the next logical step of her career to go into that, and that's exactly what she's doing. But of course, we probably won't expect anything less from both sides. I mean, they play dirty tactics. They take their opponents outside the ring to, of course, soften them up, use weapons, that sort of thing. But in the end, it was in fact Konami with the triangle lancer onto Rina. And of course, Rina had no choice but to give up. And just like that, it was over. So, of course, Konami is going to gloat about the win and all that. So, this will be a series of matches we will see between them till we get to that day of the match. So, we'll see. So as of right now, we are done with Stardom. Let's move on with our last review, which is, of course, AEW Collision Maximum Carnage. AEW Collision Maximum Carnage. We opened up, of course, with Andrade El Idolo taking on Angelico. So this will be, of course, Andrade's first match in what? Who knows how long in an AEW ring. Of course, we were going to see some interesting wrestling coming up, especially when it comes to Helico with his, athleticism and also throwing a bit of the submission technical moves. But however, Andrade was able to overcome all of that and pin Angelico, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Now, we did see an interview with the Rascals, of course. As you all know, they just made their presence known. However, one thing was interesting. We did not see Trey Miguel. We did see, of course, Myron Reed, Zachary Wentz, and Desmond Xavier. Now, hopefully, we'll get information about that soon enough. But the reasons they were there, because obviously it's because of the slogan of AEW, we're the best wrestle. So basically, they go, we can take on anybody in tag teams or in trios, however it is. So they are there to dominate that type of scene. So that's what they're going to do. And of course, they went back to their usual business in their own locker room, which everybody knows what it is. Now, our next match is, of course, the GYV, the Grizzled Young Vets, taking on Ortiz and Eddie Kingston. As you all know, for quite some time, of course, we've been seeing the GYV having their issues towards Eddie Kingston, but this time he has backup, which is his longtime friend Ortiz. Sorry about that. Try to charge up my phone. But anyway, of course, we were going to see some things with the GYV try to do whatever it takes to win by isolating their opponents. But, however, Ortiz, as you know, he never forgets his own roots. He actually took out James Drake without the ref noticing, using the slapjack, whatever it is, that thing where you use the sock and the baseball. Well, he used that on James Drake, and just like that, Eddie Kingston pinned him 1, 2, 3 over. Now, as you all know, the Babes of Wrath, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale, along with Chris Statlander, are upset with the loss. Willow wants to take the blame for it, but Chris Statlander said, "Look, I took a bullet for you. You guys would do the same for me." But however, for Chris Statlander, she did congratulate her on the win, but obviously she is telling her, "Look, if you want a title shot, I'm not that hard to find, either in the back or in the ring." So we'll see what goes from there. Now, we did see an in-ring interview, of course, with Stokely Hathaway and the FTR. Now, obviously, Stokely has been known to trash talk his opponents of FTR, but however, he did stated that he does have a little bit of envy, knowing the fact that he could have gone guys like, of course, Jake Doyle and Mark Briscoe. But one thing that, of course, FTR made perfectly clear, that they are the best of what they can do. So that's exactly what they intend to do when they meet up for the AEW World Tag Team title. So we will see where that day comes. Now, we do see a bit of a video promo from Crew, consistent of Leo Rush, Action Andretti, and of course Lacey Lane. Now, apparently these guys have a problem with the Rascals making their presence known, so this time they're going to take matters in their hands. So we may see a bit of a feud between both sides. So we'll see where that goes. Now, our next match, we did see, of course, Zeta Steel versus Marina Shafir. Now, if you guys remember, Zeta Steel confronted, of course, Marina Shafir in that match involving the Death Riders and Skyflight. But, of course, Marina dominated the entirety of this match. Not even Zeta Steel did anything possible to let her down until she applied the mother's milk, and just like that, it was completely over. Now, we were supposed to have the Don Callis family, consisting of El Clone, Josh Alexander, and Kyle Fletcher taking on Skyflight. But however, in a very interesting matter, we did see, of course, Jon Moxley was on his way to the ringside, but he was blatant attacked from behind by, of course, Lance Archer and Rocky Romero. So this was a malicious attack towards them. So I'm going to say that this is revenge for, of course, Jon Moxley taking the Continental title. Obviously, Don Callis is nothing but a big baby with diapers. That's why he attacked, because he's like, "Oh, Jon Moxley took the title, that's why he needs an ass whooping." No, that's how he is. But of course, the big mistake is knowing too well, Don Callis, you may have the biggest brutes, strongest brutes, but you have the most vicious and deadliest faction that will not back down. So he may have started a war, but I think, in my opinion, Jon Moxley realized this is the last time that Don Callis gets involved with him. Remember, he told them in that, of course, in Blood and Guts, "I never asked for your help." And that's something I'm sure Jon Moxley hasn't forgotten, but we'll see when that day happens. However, while that was being done, we move on to where the Don Callis family take on Skyflight. I have to say the match was pretty good, despite the fact that the Don Callis family were worn out just a little bit. But in the end, it was, in fact, Josh Alexander that picked up the win onto Darius with the pile driver. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, we did see the return of Konosuke Takeshita, but he did not greet. He ignored Don Callis and the others except for Kyle Fletcher. So most likely we can see Kyle Fletcher, Takeshita being kicked out of the family. That's something we probably could expect at some point. Now, we did see an interview in the back with Roderick Strong along with Orange Cassidy. As you know, Roderick Strong is going to be facing Claudio for the CML World Championship. And of course, Mark Briscoe was there too to give a little bit of the word of the day. And that, of course, Roderick was like, I'm not having it. So he basically is distancing himself from them. Now, we did see Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne. As you all know, Penelope was out of action due to an injury. Now she's back. She faces against Daniela Camella. Many of you remember her from NXT. And of course, she teams up with Viva Van. But obviously, this match was going to go directly to Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne. And just like that, it was the Doomsday device onto Camella, and then pinned by Ford, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it's over. However, we did see Marina Shafir showed up to celebrate with her friends. However, Mina Shirakawa, along with Tony Storm, decided to have a little fun. As you all know, Tony Storm had some unfinished business towards, of course, Marina Shafir. Last time, their match did not happen thanks to that sniveling little weasel, Wheeler Yuta. So we'll see when that day comes between them. Now, in the backstage, Swerve was doing an interview with Lexi. Apparently, Kevin McKnight, Kevin Knight actually wanted to talk to him about what he said about him being the future. But he told him, do not wait 5-6 years. So that's what he said. So we may see a match between them. Now, Ricochet made his way to the ring side because he's going to be observing who will be his opponent for the title, and that is, of course, either Jungle Jack and Anthony Bowens. But, of course, Ricochet probably does not want either of them, but he has no choice. But, of course, we did see a running knee strike onto Bowens, and, of course, Jungle Jack Perry won. And then we did see, post-match, Jungle Jack made a beeline towards Ricochet, so that kind of sets it up right there. So we all know where that leads us. So we'll see where we'll go. Now, the Death Riders, as you know, sent a warning shot towards, of course, the Don Callis family. It now becomes a war. So they, of course, what's his name? Garcia was calling them, you guys are no family. But of course, he's saying about how he knows how tough they are, but they're not nowhere near as them. So that's something we could see. Now our next match is, of course, the AEW World Trios Championship, which is our main event. The Ops, Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, and Powerhouse Hobbs defend them against Jet Speed, Kevin Knight, and Mike Bailey, and Hangman Page. And I thought the match was pretty good. However, we did see a very interesting submission coming over until, of course, it was Kevin Knight that picked up the win by pinning Powerhouse Hobbs. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, new tag champions. And just like that, completely couldn't believe that happened. So, but also this was marked as possibly the last time we see Powerhouse Hobbs, because apparently his contract has already expired and he is waiting to explore other options. So we'll see what happens for him. But I have to say, it was a pretty good show, not gonna lie. So until then, we're just officially done with everything. Let's move on with the last and final thing, news updates. All right, so welcome to our news update. So we have no upcoming events on this one in case anybody wants to ask. So we only got certain developments that we were going to talk about. Now, many of you know Richard Holliday. He was part of that group with, of course, with Hammerstone, MJF, and I forgot who else. But John Alba of Sports Illustrated actually mentioned that Richard Holliday has been mentioned a few times in TNA. So people were bringing his name up in order to push him to sign with TNA. So it's still unclear if TNA does have an interest, but to me, I wouldn't mind if he does sign with TNA. You know, because I know he has made appearance in AEW once before, but that was it. But we don't know. If there's any new information about that, I'll let you guys know as soon as possible. Now, speaking of TNA, as you know, the Righteous are going to be facing against the Hardys for the TNA Tag Team titles. Well, it's just been officially confirmed that they are officially signed with TNA. So that's good to hear. Now, our last development here on our updates, Fightful Select reports, as you all know, may have know that Leon Slater has been pulled from TNA because he was allowed to go to wrestle at WWE, if you all know. So basically, that whole thing where his visas, well, that kind of sets it up. But that's what happened. So I don't know exactly the full extent to that, but we'll see. But until then, I think that's pretty much what we have. So let's call it a day. Okay, so that's pretty much it for our episode. So hope you guys enjoyed it. For our next one, we definitely will do TNA Genesis, their first pay per view of 2026. We'll probably continue with more with Stardom, as you know they continue with the New Year's Stars, their day two in Osaka, so we might do that. I did hear there's going to be a New Japan show. This one is the produced show by Yuji Nagata, Blue Justice, so I may do that. So we'll see how that rolls. But right now, that's pretty much it. So until then, I will say this, and I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.